I'm recording. All right, on three. Okay, ready. One, two. Imagine walking up to your dream apartment, finding the perfect first car, or finally preparing it to launch that small business that you've been planning for years, only to have it blocked by a single three-digit number. This number dictates our financial freedom, yet a shocking number of people do not understand how it actually works until it's already too late. Credit cards and the scores attached to them are deeply woven into our daily lives, affecting everything from our phone contracts to our insurance rates. As college students preparing to navigate the real world, understanding the system isn't just an academic exercise, it's a financial survival tool. Today, we will look back at the thousand-year-long evolution of credit, break down the specific math used to calculate your scores, and debunk the widespread financial myths that you must avoid to protect your future. Let's begin by looking at the modern concept of credit tracking first came to be. So, the history of credit, right? The modern credit system is built upon a deep financial history. According to a historical research paper published by the Silver Lake editors, written records of credit accounts actually date back to the Babylonian and the Assyrian cultures at the dawn of the Bronze Age. For centuries, however, credit was highly unscientific. It relied entirely on merchant personally knowing and trusting you and just doing it in good faith. The Silver Lake editors say that the actual concept of the physical credit card originally uh, was made in the 1920s when individual hotel chains and oil companies issued them to traveling Americans for company-specific purposes, right? So this game changer arrived in 1950 when the Diners Club introduced the very first general purpose card, followed by American Express in 1958. Soon after, the Bank of America launched the Bank Americard, which we know today as Visa, creating the revolutionary system where the bank pays the merchant instantly and bills the consumer later. Now that we understand the historical background, we can examine the modern system mathematically, how it evaluates your reliability. Right, so credit bureaus use your financial data to calculate distinct scores based on the precise mathematical formulas. According to a financial journalist, Adriana Morga, a traditional credit scores ranges from about 350 to 850, and it is built on five specific percentages. Math breaks down like this: 35% is your payment history, whether you pay your bills on time. 30% is your credit utilization, depending on your total credit limit. And then the rest of the mathematical pie is 15% is the length of your credit history, 10% for the mix of different credit types, like a mortgage, an auto loan, something like that, and 10% for recent inquiries. The good news, as Morg highlights, is that the scores are calculated purely on financial management behavior. So by law, right, formulas are strictly forbidden to look at your race, age, gender, nationality, religion. Um, it measures how well you can manage money that you have, regardless of how much you make. So a high income earner can still have a terrible score if they're reckless. Because these mathematical formulas are kept private, a massive wave of misinformation has spread, making it incredibly important to separate fact from fiction. Right, so myths versus reality. Let's talk about these myths. In her book, Your Credit Score, financial expert Liz Pulliam Weston explains that a massive myth often repeated by real estate and loan professions is that closing unused credit accounts helps your score. Well, in reality, Weston notes that closing accounts narrows your credit utilization as well as your overall credit limit and shortens your credit history, causing your score to drop. Another destructive myth that checking your own score is that checking your own score lowers it. As both Morgan and Weston pointed out, the FICO formula completely ignores personal, soft inquiries, meaning you can safely inspect your report as often as you want to catch things early, like identity theft. Protecting this score unlocks massive perks, right? So top tier credit allows you to bypass costly upfront uh, deposits on utilities and gives you extreme advantages into highly competitive rental markets such as Boston or New York. And it also gives you lower interest rates on expensive property, like an expensive car or something like this, something you need to finance. So as we've seen, the way we can handle our credit today sets the boundaries for what we can achieve tomorrow. Today, we're tracking the journey of credit cards from ancient Babylonian roots to modern revolving networks. We broke down the calculations between credit scores. We cracked open dangerous myths regarding closing accounts and checking your data. And your financial score is the ultimate gatekeeper to your future physical milestones, right? While a credit score does not define your value as a human being, it completely dictates your future within the modern economy. Treat your credit score like a physical reputation. Build it carefully, guard it closely, and use it wisely so that the time comes when you want to build your dreams, the door is wide open. Thank you.
That was good. I think
No
your time was around 5 minutes. I started it like probably like a minute into your speech. I thought your time was really good, especially for a first try.
word. Thank you.
Good.
All right, let's keep going. Yeah, so whoever wants to go next.
I want to move my camera down so I can
Yep, yep, yep.
actually try to keep it back up.
No worries.
Oops. Al, do you have any advice?
Um, I mean, the only thing that I kind of noticed was like, I mean, I feel like you didn't really do it as much as I probably will, but like, there are a few times where you were like kind of going in between um points, and then I feel like there were points where it was a little hard for me to keep up with the speed, but
Yeah,
overall, I thought it was pretty good.
thanks, man. I gotta slow down for sure. Definitely.
Mine's gonna be worse. Don't worry. This
No,
is
no, no. Not at all, bro. Let's see what you got. I appreciate that.
all
Yeah,
right.
I
So
think we
I'll
both
just
give you
keep.
this little sheet. So,
Oh yeah, we'll
right.
probably fill out the form after,
Yep, yep, yep.
but I'll keep that. I'll keep track of myself.
No worries. No worries.
All right.
All right. Whenever you're ready.
Imagine this. You're going to the doctor's office to attend your routine annual checkup, but instead of simply checking your heart and lungs, your doctor asks when your last visit with the dentist was. While it may seem strange and irrelevant to a typical patient, it's actually a growing concern among many physicians across the country. Researchers found that adults with periodontitis, a severe gum disease, face significantly higher risks for systemic conditions such as diabetes, heart disease, along with hypertension. Um, Conditions which would have never believed to have been connected to our gums. Many people believe brushing and flossing twice a day is more than enough to prevent cavities and occasional bad breath. But what if I told you that the health of your gums could be discreetly swaying and molding the health of not just your heart, but also your blood sugar and immune system? Today, I want to inform you about the underlying link between oral health and systemic disease, focusing first on the biological mechanisms behind the link between its two most well-documented examples, diabetes and cardiovascular disease. Now, we know why this topic matters, but let's take a look at the biological mechanism that connects this problem in your mouth to your entire body. Chronic inflammation is the main mechanism behind the relationship between your oral health and systemic disease, and is caused by periodontal bacteria, otherwise known as the bacteria formed within your gums. Periodontal disease begins when biofilm, commonly referred to as plaque, um, builds up along the gum line of the mouth, causing immediate chronic immune response to the buildup. In a systemic disease review in the Dentistry Journal, bacteria and other red complex species or small groups of aggressive bacteria, which dental researchers widely consider detrimental to gum tissue, is considered a root cause of this inflammatory response. In a similar way, a 2025 editorial by Frontiers in Dental Medicine show how persistent gum infections increase inflammatory markers, which are proteins in the immune system, which are emitted when threats are detected, such as C-reactive protein, interleukin-6, and TNF alpha, which circulate throughout the bloodstream. The second these bacteria and inflammatory molecules enter the bloodstream, whether it's through bleeding or inflammation in the gum tissue, they can soon travel to the organs, reaching areas far beyond the mouth. Researchers often define this as bacterial translocation, also known as the movement of bacteria throughout the bloodstream and into various organs, where microbes from the mouth are able to directly or indirectly impact blood vessels along with other tissues within the mouth. These shared inflammatory pathways are the reason periodontal disease is now considered a contributing risk factor rather than an incidental attribution to many systemic illnesses. So now that we understand exactly how inflammation and bacteria is able to reach beyond the mouth, let's take a look at one of the most studied examples of this connection, the relationship between periodontal disease and diabetes. The relationship between periodontal disease and diabetes is a two-way street, with either condition having the ability to worsen the other. Higher blood sugar levels, typically associated with diabetic patients, allow for a higher chance in creating an environment that worsens the condition of gum disease. Elevated glucose levels within the body significantly worsen the body's ability to fight off bacterial infections in gums, and as a result, the impaired response allows for periodontal disease to progress quicker. Furthermore, in a 2025 survey on nearly 13,800 adults, a statistically significant association between periodontitis and diabetes was discovered by researchers. As a result of this chronic inflammation from gum disease, management of blood sugar levels has become increasingly difficult. Inflammatory markers caused by gum-infected tissue interferes with insulin function, which worsens glycemic control, causing dental organizations to begin recommending diabetic patients to receive more frequent periodontal checkups as a part of diabetic management procedures. In an editorial from January this year, Frontiers in Clinical Diabetes and Healthcare reaffirmed the relationship being bidirectional, pointing towards growing research on shared metabolic risk markers and periodontal treatment as a form of blood sugar management. As a result, and as research and studies continue, more and more indications of periodontal disease being linked with cardiovascular disease arise due to the way it functions. Due to the nature of oral bacteria, damage towards the cell that reside along the lining of blood vessels contributes significantly to the buildup of arterial plaque, which further exacerbates cardiovascular disease. Bacterial endotoxins, toxins which are released when bacteria begins to break apart from periodontal infections, have been responsible for damage to endothelial cells, which are the thin layers of cells which line the inner layers of blood vessels, contributing towards atherosclerotic plaque formation, otherwise known as the buildup of fat in arteries. In a 2025 systemic review of specific periodontal bacteria, research points towards the influence of bacteria on cardiovascular health through the inflammatory pathways. These pathways allow for microbial spread, which then alters the immune system and spreads throughout the bloodstream. Furthermore, these bacterial pathways have been further linked to higher risks of serious heart conditions, making periodontal maintenance a crucial part of cardiovascular disease prevention. In a 2025 review by the International Journal of Dentistry, periodontitis was shown to have similar inflammatory risk factors with 6 different cardiovascular diseases. In the same review, periodontal treatment was found to have reduced not only oral and systematic markers, but also to protect from cardiovascular health. Having walked through the mechanisms behind the connection of his 2 most studied examples, let's bring this information together. Today, we have explored how chronic inflammation, along with bacteria caused by periodontal disease, is able to travel far beyond what patients expect. Additionally, we learned how the same process is able to intensify gum disease and diabetes, along with how it's able to strain cardiovascular health. While technical terms may seem confusing, there's a simple solution to this problem. Oral health doesn't just allow for you to have better breath, but it's also one of the most accessible ways for you to protect your heart, blood sugar, and long-term well-being. Taking care of your oral hygiene is simply one of the best ways to take care of your body. And that was
Well done, well done. You were
6
right
minutes.
there. You're right.
Dude, that was crazy. I did not expect it to go that long.
Oh, no worries. That was good. Yeah, just maybe cut it back a little bit. You're doing great. Just like, yeah, sometimes you'll stutter. If you don't stutter, I think you'll be like right there, bro.
It's my bad. I'm terrible at like this type of stuff, so
All
I'm
good.
expecting it to
All
go like
good.
that.
Me,
I would say the one thing I kind of like noticed. I guess your screen is lower than your camera, but it seemed like
Eye
you were looking
contact.
down at something for a little bit.
It's my
Uh,
bad. Sorry about
but,
that.
no worries.
but no, I thought it was really good. I think it was like there weren't that many pauses, and like it was just like you just went straight through it. That's pretty
All
good.
right. Thank you
Yeah,
guys.
you got that for sure. That was good. That was good. That was great. I just think it was, once you get it more cohesive, once you like do it a few more times, I think that's gonna be great.
Got it. Thank you guys.
Of course, man. And then let's hear it, bro.
All right. Okay. Um, have you ever stayed up late to study, promising yourself that you would catch up on sleep later, then feeling groggy the next day? It's a very common experience, but sleep should not be something we sacrifice when things get busy. Sleep can affect daily tasks such as school, work, driving, sports, and communication. Sleep is essential for overall health because it supports brain function, mood regulation, and physical recovery, all of which are vital for day-to-day functioning. In this speech, I'll go over how sleep is regulated, how sleep supports the brain and body, and how sleep deprivation can affect daily performance and health. To understand why sleep matters, we must first understand what controls when we feel tired and when we feel awake. The body uses two different ways to tell your brain that it's time to sleep. The first way is something called the circadian rhythm. The circadian rhythm uses something called a suprachiasmatic nucleus to react to light, and it kind of tells your brain when it's day versus when it's night, so that you kind of know when you start to feel tired, right? And then it also does more than just make you tired. The circadian rhythm tells your body when um, kind of regulates the mood, your metabolic rates, your core temperature, and the release of hormones. Um, Throughout the day, right? Your metabolic rate will be higher, right? Your core temperature will be higher, and then as you get a little bit more tired, your circadian rhythm will start to kind of lower your metabolic rate, lower your core temperature, um, and also kind of calm you down a little bit, right? The second way is something called sleep pressure. Sleep pressure is when a chemical called adenosine builds up in your brain. Um, Adenosine is something, high concentrations of adenosine will start to kind of shut off parts of your brain that make you feel awake, that or make you feel more aware, and then it'll also start to turn on parts of your brain um, that start to make you feel tired, that need to be active while you're sleeping. And um, one thing about adenosine too is that if you're drinking coffee, if you like to drink caffeine or take caffeine in any way, caffeine works by blocking the adenosine receptors in your brain, so you don't feel tired, but that adenosine continues to build up. So that's why when the caffeine um, when the caffeine wears off, then that's when you feel like a crash, right? So once we understand how the body regulates when we feel sleepy and when we feel awake, it becomes clearer why it affects more than just how tired we feel. For example, sleep supports cognitive function, academics, safe driving, memory, learning, decision making, right? And these are all functions that we do every day. Um, Things that is very, very important that we are aware for, right? And one interesting fact is that drowsy driving is responsible for more car crashes than drugs or drunk driving combined. Um, and then another way that sleep also supports how you act and react in social settings. When you sleep, your brain kind of evaluates past experiences. Um, it it kind of it allows you to read social cues a little bit better throughout the day. Um, and kind of going back to the circadian rhythm, right? It also helps with your mood regulation. So when you're with friends, talking to people, your mood definitely does play a role in those social settings. Because sleep supports so many different functions of the body, losing sleep can also have the opposite effect. Right? There is a plethora of effects that sleep has on your body, and just losing 1 hours of sleep um, can already increase your resting heart rate. It can increase your blood sugar uh, and your blood pressure levels. Losing sleep can harm the immune system and, in some cases, contribute to cancer. There is a study that shows that less sleep can negatively impact cells that help fight cancerous cells. So it can make the cancer worse as well. Uh, Sleep deprivation is also linked to obesity. It affects many of the metabolic systems within the body, along with regulating insulin, glucose, and gut health. And it also affects the hormones that are released throughout the day that control how hungry you feel and how full you feel. So, yeah. Sleep plays such a critical role in our lives, and it is something that we cannot afford to lose. So I hope the next time you think about sacrificing sleep to cram in one last study session or one more game, you remember what can happen within your brain and body as a consequence. Despite being one of the most enjoyed natural experiences human can encounter, it is also one of the most neglected. Sleep itself is one of the easiest ways to support brain function, mood regulation, and performance. Instead of treating sleep as something to sacrifice, we should treat it like one of the most important parts of keeping ourselves healthy. Thank you.
I got
Great.
627.
I started like a minute and I got like, yeah, that sounds right. That was
Not
great.
bad.
That was great. No, that was totally great. I mean, I think the only thing I have to say, you definitely got to like do it a few more times, just like get used to it a little more, like all of us. But other than that, man, I mean, you were great. You totally got to it. You weren't like looking at your notes a ton. You're definitely improvising a little bit, and it was in a good way. So good job.
Yeah, I like the content a lot. If anything, I'd say, well, this is probably come from practice, but I guess like the pace was a little slow. I mean, it's kind of like drifting off a little bit, but the content's really good.
Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you. I'll
Yeah.
keep that in mind.
let me stop this.